What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report. It's Dr. T. Hasan Johnson. And I wanted to just briefly start by shouting out my members. First of all, I hope everybody is well, especially as we head into the holiday season. We can talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But starting out, I wanted to give a shout out to my supporters and my members. Those of you who are on Interlight Radio, you'll hear some music for a moment. But for those of you on YouTube and Facebook, you guys will be able to see guys who've been supporting me and or the people I should say who've been supporting me, and I want to make sure that they get that shout out. So here we go. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope everybody is well. I see we got Muad in the building. What's up, man? Cynical, Rashid, what's going on? Hope everybody's well. Brother Quadwo, good to see you. Damon, good to see you as always. Darius, thank you for that support. And please do that. Please, as y'all know, what we usually say, like, share, and subscribe. Support the channel. You can definitely do so in a couple of different ways. You can do so through Cash App, through PayPal, but definitely go ahead and extend some support. I'm going to show you some other options in a quick moment. But please make sure you support the channel. Hi, Scholar, what's going on? See a few people in here. NJ Progressive, we got 52 people coming in, so we're still kind of waking up. But Ian, what's going on? Good to see you as usual. Happy belated birthday to you. Hope all is well. Yeah, it's a crazy week, as you guys can imagine. So we're gonna get it in, but we are getting there. I am joined by special guest today, so I will be bringing him in momentarily. But I wanted to get through some of my kind of introductory welcoming kind of things here. So here we go. As y'all know, Onyx Report, where we uplift black men and boys using critical analysis. So we definitely want to keep doing that. What's up, Rashid? Thanks for the Cash App. Appreciate that support. All right. And with that in mind, right, this is how you can further support the show. You can click the join button to become a member of the Onyx Report. That's right next to the subscribe button on YouTube, right to the bottom of the right. You can click, if you haven't subscribed, obviously do so. I've been shadow banned and I'm still kind of battling against that. So they've been kind of, as many numbers as I get, they've been kind of eliminating members. But in the meantime, please make sure you support best you can. So join and subscribe, and there are different levels of membership, as you can see, starting at gold level membership through diamond level, onyx level, and from there's meteor and black opal. These are different levels that come with various perks, so check those out on YouTube. Also, you can be a Patreon supporter and you can check out my film reviews, and the film review series are designed for parents talking to black sons and using film as a way to dialogue, right? McConan, what's up, brother? Bernadette from Canada, good to see you in here. All right, so the film series is just that. It's designed to use film, and my latest film review was of Omari Hardwick's film Spell. So check that out. That was released yesterday. If you're interested in, checking out the film review and any of the other film reviews in there, just make sure that you go to Patreon and sign up. That way you can support the channel. And there's a new option since last week as we released and launched the Institute for Black Male Studies. And you can go to instituteforblackmalestudies.com to see it more directly. But in the meantime, if you'd like to support the Institute directly, you can go to Patreon. You go to my Patreon page, and there is an option there for the Institute. And you can go ahead and support through those means. And so what we're doing at the Institute is there'll be classes. There are classes. There's actually a class up now, and there'll be a 3-part webinar on December 2nd, next week, up dealing with black men and black men being misunderstood. So we'll be having both of those up, but the classes are ongoing. The first one that's up now is a 16-week course. It's an introduction to Black Male Studies. So we started with that last week, and it is up and going. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and go on to the Institute, click on menu, and you can check out what's called the store and see what's available. And I'll be adding some new things to it on a regular basis. So I'll be telling you more about it as we go, but there's definitely some content there. And if you're also interested in supporting in another way, you can actually pick up some of the gear that's on the merchandise page on the Institute for Black Male Studies website. And as you can see here, they're everything from caps to backpacks to mugs to shirts. As a matter of fact, I am wearing one that I just got in the mail. So let me see if I can get that here on the screen a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I got the blue version of the closing of my show. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely check it out. And there are a variety of different options, different styles and designs that I think you might enjoy on a number of different levels. So check it out. As a matter of fact, I was asked by a couple of people to do children's and baby merchandise, and I did. So there's some children and baby merchandise up there as far as the Institute, as well as the Sacred Black Masculine and some of the other designs. So we got some stuff up there I think you might enjoy. So again, just go to instituteforblackmalestudies.com and click on merchandise in the menu section, and you'll be able to see some of the things we have there for you. So check that out. I think you'll enjoy. Let me see here. And so what I would like to do is kind of get in a shout out real quick as we move in. This actually has to do with the merchandise too, but as promised, I said if you guys send me in some pictures, I'll definitely showcase you. So got a couple of brothers here that supported. So shout out to McConan, shout out to Dominic. They're able to send in some stuff. So you can see on the left, you see the mug on the table. That's the one I have in front of me, as well as the hoodies that we have. So shout out to those brothers for supporting. Much appreciation to you. I'd like to welcome my guest because we're going to walk through a lot of what we have to cover today. And it's always an honor to have him kind of help me do it, because today's been a crazy day. What's up, Adam? Elaine, thanks for that support. Origins of Man, much appreciated for that generous support. Thank you. And Adam, I see you in there. Gavin, what's going on? Gigi in the house. G with the PhD. Always good to see you in here. And you did a beautiful job this morning on Dennis Sperling's stream. So good to see you. I'm gonna be trying to get with Dennis soon because we got a few things to talk about. We've just been missing each other. But I'd like to bring in a good brother BGS Ibmore. What's going on with you, man?
Hey, what's going on, folks?
And much appreciation for coming through. Because it's a crazy day. I think I need some help.
I think I'm getting an echo.
You in the echo?
Mm-hmm.
Is it from me or?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Common problem.
Last time I had that problem, I had to check out and come back in. So, let's see.
So yeah, what's going on, folks? While Doctor's actually getting things together. So, Man Friday, Marcus. Hey, Marcus, what's going on? Ian, on your left.
Is that any better?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Apologize to my Inner Light crew. You're listening on Inner Light Radio. We're just working through some technical difficulties, But we're broadcasting today on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, as well as innerlightradio.com. So check it out. Leeways, good to see you in here.
Aquatech coming in as a member.
Oh, beautiful. All right, Aquatech, good to have you in as a member. E313, thank you for the support. All right, so we in here, we getting it going. All right. So today I'm going to start off, as y'all know I like to do, have the show broken up into areas. And Sir Anthony, what's going on? And I like to start off with the sacred black masculine. And I do that very purposely because I want to make sure that brothers get acknowledged. We celebrate black men over here, right? More than anything else. We defend and celebrate black men. But I also kind of wanted to show you, we got these that came in, right? Sacred black masculine shirts. So we definitely want to put that out there and definitely support in general. So I do this mainly for us to get into the habit, really, of celebrating other black men. So we only got one this week that I'm gonna jump into because, like I said, it's been a crazy week. But this is, as you can see, a black inventor who creates the world's first self-growing farming system to combat food scarcity and land shortage. All right, so shout out to Daryl Addison, black inventor with degrees in chemistry and physics. He's also the CEO and founder of Torpedo Pot. I may have pronounced that wrong. Oh, Torpedo Pot.
Torpedo Pot.
Torpedo Pot, my bad. A company that makes the world's first self-growing planters. Torpedo Pot optimizes the conditions in which plants can achieve their full potential and is scientifically designed to grow your plants for you. So something to check out. If you're interested in checking that out, you can go to shopblack.us, and shop is SHOPPE, as you can see on the label there. So check that out. Go ahead and support Daryl and what he's doing, and shout out to him, especially in this time period. I think something like that is going to be more useful than not. Shout out to Shop Talk Live. I see you, man. What's going on? Let's see. All right. So why don't we jump straight into some of our current events?
Okay. Can you guys still hear an echo?
Are you guys getting? Is there an echo? Oh, I hope not.
Yeah. It's slight.
Oh, it is one still?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not sure what that is.
Let me go back, go out and come back in.
Okay. All right. Marcellus, appreciate the Cash App support. Thank you. Okay, yeah, so it said, unfortunately, yes, there's an echo. Interesting. Okay. So he's going out, he'll be back in, and we'll keep it going from here. This was a strange video. Oh man, there's still an echo? Is it an echo with me or just BGS? You guys let me know if I'm echoing. And BGS is back in the building.
Okay. It's still. What about your setting on your mixer?
Haven't changed very much.
Okay.
Yeah, they said it's only BGS, but
okay, we'll work with it.
I'm gonna step out one more time, see if that helps.
Because I don't think I'm echoing by myself.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. It seems to be gone. When you share your screen, it seems to echo.
That's strange. Every week is something new, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's I'm gonna try it again.
Try unclick the sound box and see what happens when you share your screen.
I need the sound box too.
Okay. Let's see.
So let's try.
Yeah.
So
far. Yeah.
So far they say it's good.
It's good. Okay.
But I gotta hit.
Fingers crossed.
Hit the sound box.
Well, if it happens, it happens. But it will.
Okay.
But so far it's good. Let's keep rolling. If it comes up, it comes up.
We're in. So we're trying it with the sound on. Is that
okay?
Any better? Is that any worse?
Yeah. When you turn the sound on.
Okay. Well, Hopefully it's okay. Because the first thing we gotta check out actually does have sound. This is a video sent to me via Facebook, and it you know what, I'm not even gonna introduce it. Y'all gotta hear this for yourselves, and I can't wait to hear brother BGS's response. But shout out to Jamal for sending me this. Here we go.
I have a question from my fellow black girls. If you're not one of us, then please just keep it scrolling. No.
So the rest of that video goes on, and the girl asks other black girls and women, should we keep risking our lives, knowing that the mortality rate for black women giving birth is very high? Should we keep risking our lives to make black boys just for them to come out and disrespect us? And the very fact that that question is even being asked right now by younger black women, these little black boys, y'all need to pay attention, because you could be potentially creating a problem for yourselves that I don't think you realize. These girls are already sick of y'all shit. They're tired. And if y'all don't get it together, they are going to just opt to decide potentially, let's not even have this problem. Let's nip it at the source. And yes, I understand it's not all of you, but the problem is there's too many of you doing it for this to be the way some of these black girls are feeling right now. Y'all gotta do better, because...
Brother BGS, any thoughts, sir?
That's what happens when you dumb down your school system. So you're gonna try to get the existing black males to act better by not having black boys. Okay.
You see that?
Like black men can't choose other women.
And it's as brother Dr. Neal said on another post, he said this is brainwashing. And they have definitely, there's many, I should say, who have downloaded a lot of this and are operating off of it. Those who saw the post I put up last night from the comedian Takara, she did like a 14-minute kind of rant about this kind of thing. And she was talking explicitly about what she's hearing from other black women and how this kind of, you know, bothers her. DJ B-Side, appreciate that support. So
it's like black men are forcing black women to have babies.
Right. And so the response is to pull back from having black boys.
Yes.
It's completely irrational. But nonetheless, this is, and I play this because this is the kind of thing that brothers are dealing with. This is the kind of response that that many men are messaging me about on a regular basis, and yet there's no space, you know, in the mainstream to talk about this. But these are the kind of issues that many black men deal with, and yet we can watch movies, films, television shows, read magazines that cover all the problems that black men supposedly bring to the table. But when black men want to voice their experiences, right, you know, MLR, appreciate that generous support, brother. Thank you. As brother Quadwo says, the madness is deep, right? As if the minority of black boys who act out disrespectfully isn't equaled by the minority of black girls who act out disrespectfully. Absolutely. It's a one-sided dynamic, and unfortunately I have more to show y'all as we go.
It's really not disrespect. It's the younger black boys not choosing black women. That's really what's happening.
Okay, and so the frustration from that, huh? Okay. As you can see here, this is let's see, post on people.com, believe it or not. People.com, family says man was lured to Houston by catfish he met online before being robbed, then killed. Right. In May, Deontay Hicks drove to Houston to spend the weekend with a woman he'd met online, but then he was robbed and killed, say police. In early May, Hicks was going to see a woman, or so he thought. 27-year-old father was actually a victim of catfishing, when a person pretends to be someone else on social media, often with bad intentions. 4:20 a.m. on May 10th, Hicks was shot and killed while he was standing outside of his car in the 1000 block of Center Parkway, according to Crime Stoppers in the Houston Police Department's Homicide Division. Family says he was lured there to be robbed. All right, so he was rushed to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. So be very careful, my brothers, when you're out there hunting, as it were. The internet is no joke, and you have no idea who people are. So be very careful about anyone you run across. But I was sad to hear about this.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of women. I think it was Ohio or Michigan that had a string of these where they're actually catfishing men and robbing them. I think they collected like a couple $100,000.
Wow, that is ridiculous. But this is what we're dealing with. Some of you may have heard sad news for singer Bobby Brown, his second child to die at a young age. But Bobby Brown Jr. Was found dead in his LA home on Wednesday. The half brother of Bobby Christina Brown, who died in 2015, he was 28. Officers with the LA Police Department responded to a call for a medical emergency on Wednesday around 1:50 p.m. And they say that there's no foul play suspected, but he was nonetheless pronounced dead at the scene. So, sad news to Bobby Brown. He's been going through a lot. I mean, 2 kids. That is a nightmare for your children to die before you do. So,
Sins of the father.
Oh man. Next up, support Alternative Factuals. You can check him out here on YouTube. He deals with comic books and comic book related material, and he did a video here talking about the end of Black Lightning in season 4. He does an excellent job kind of covering it, and even though he doesn't necessarily approach it in the same way, he talks about the kind of diminishment of the primary character, Black Lightning, and how the show was really being set up for Black Lightning's daughters to take over. And yet one of the actresses, who actually the one we see on the screen, is actually backing out of the show. So they're going to try and figure out how they're going to move forward with this, because I think they were going to kind of, extend the show to the daughters overall. And that doesn't seem to be happening. But check this video out if you get a chance and get caught up. I stopped watching after the first season because one of the things I saw very early on was that the character was being diminished in a number of different ways, and he was being superseded by his wife and his daughters in a way that I just thought wasn't befitting character I've been reading for 40 years, roughly in that area. But yeah, so any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I stopped watching like halfway through the first season.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. And they're pushing the LGBTQ agenda.
Okay. Well, yeah, check it out, and you might be able to find some pieces about this. But the reason we talk about these things is if it just happened with Black Lightning, or if it just happened with Black Panther, that would be one thing. But it's the consistency of it over and across different mediums that ends up being highly problematic, especially when it comes to the portrayal of Black men. We're often depicted either in a very stereotypical fashion. We tend to be either big brutes, or we tend to be sidekicks in much of the comic book medium. But this latest venture, this latest kind of series of approaches, overwhelmingly now kind of shift us into this mode of deferring to women in a particular way. And you're definitely going to see this in the next report I have up. 205 people watching. Again, hit the like button. Please support the channel, right? Join, become a member, or at least go ahead and subscribe, right? Because again, I'm battling some shadow banning on YouTube's part, so please make sure you go ahead and support. Some of you saw this next one, right? Jason Momoa says he is terrified of his wife, right? Lisa Bonet. He opened up the Men's Health magazine, I guess it is, about not being the king of his house, yoga, and his upcoming film Dune, right? But this this seems to be, again, more the consistent kind of thing we've been seeing, to bend the knee and kiss the ring. Right? So as consistent as this kind of narrative seems to be, I find more and more men take issue with it, but don't have a platform outside of social media to really to express their thoughts, or at least a platform where, like in the mainstream, we are heard about it. But consistency of the agenda seems to go on nonetheless. Right. So here we go. Let me see. He's irreplaceable. Breonna Taylor, protest leader, 21, killed in a shooting. Sadly enough, they didn't even mention his name in the title, but Hamza Travis Nagdi was optimistic as he stood before a group of protesters at First Unitarian Church in Old Louisville. He said, I told them 2 months before the movement I was the closest I had been to committing suicide. 21-year-old recounted to the Courier Journal in October, and I could have just not been here. Straight up, I could have just not been here at all. I came out here to protest, just observing, watching, using a megaphone whenever I could. There was just so much beautiful interaction that happened that it made me realize that what was going on out here was building something different, and it gave me a reason to live.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And on Monday, Nagdi's life was cut short. He was shot and killed shortly before 12:30 a.m. on the 2100 block of Crittenden Drive, becoming the latest victim in a record year of gun violence in Louisville that has disproportionately affected young Black men.
Sounds like a repeat of St. Louis.
Yeah. And mind you, this is coming on the heels of accusations that anyway, Black men don't protest, support, whatever. But nonetheless, we're seeing a string of these, and we've been seeing them for a number of years now, and they may get a quick report and then they disappear. So we don't hear the consistent ongoing kind of analysis about Black men protest and mysterious murders. But here we're trying to at least keep some notations on how often this occurs. Next up, some of you guys have seen this. A lot of you probably have. Another kind of kiss the ring moment, right? It's not necessarily this video that you have to watch, but you know, if you choose to, there's no problem. You can find this issue across multiple platforms, and Will comes out on the Red Table Talk and kind of really psychoanalyzes himself after the apology to Janet Hubert. And my problem with this was when you actually listen to the apology, it's a one-way street. It is her waiting on him to apologize for something that happened a couple of decades ago. But, as he was a teenager and she was the adult, and yet she's waited all this time for him to apologize to her. She owns very little of it in terms of her own behavior and what happened to her in her career. She owns very little of it. It's all kind of placed on his shoulders. And the reason I wanted to kind of put this up for a moment was to just kind of reflect on the way in which when you link apologies and media and gender in a very particular way, especially with Red Table Talk, it seems to be this consistent trope of men coming to the table to bare their soul, apologize, so on and so forth, and women just standing there and receiving it in a very kind of gracious and magnanimous way. But again, no ownership, no acknowledgement whatsoever of her deeds, what brought her to be. And I've been hearing complaints about her behavior even then.
Yes.
Far beyond Will.
Yes.
But she owns none of it.
The whole cast.
The whole cast, absolutely. Did you get a chance to see the apology, so to speak?
I saw parts of it.
Okay. No.
And
as much as you needed to, did she?
And she didn't get the contract she wanted. So she left. But she blamed him.
She blamed him. Yeah. And did so all of this time. I mean, it was really pathetic. The only time I saw her in media was when she was complaining about him. Everybody else moved on with their lives. But she owns no part in any of that. And I found that to be problematic. And I found the expectation that he be the one to psychoanalyze himself while she just sat there and it was ridiculous. But I mean, this kind of one-sided, kind of a set of expectations is partly what we're seeing as far as the expectations of black men. You know, black men have to bear the weight of becoming perfect for everybody else, but you know, she owns nothing. Right? This one here kind of connects to me a little bit to, you know, some of the things that are going on or coming up in the season, that we're coming up on the holiday season. Young and alone, what's behind the growing mental health crisis in young people during the pandemic, right? And I post this because every year I try and extend, well, throughout the year, but especially coming into the holiday seasons, I try and reach out to brothers that are, you know, are going through some difficult times. The holiday season is usually where you see an uptick in suicides, and I just want to extend to brothers, if you, especially if you're alone, that it doesn't necessarily need to be the end of the discussion. You know, in terms of your life. And this is exacerbated by COVID, right? We're going back into, you know, another pullback, you know, so I know you know, the loneliness factor can be extreme already as it is, but with those kind of conditions and what people have been grappling with all year, you know, it's obviously even more poised than that to be, you know, fairly difficult. So, you know, try and find support where you can. If you find yourself at a point where you know, things are getting particularly grim, reach out. You know, I have a very close brother that reached out to me and shared with me that you know, that was on his mind. He was making plans, even went so far to check his life insurance to make sure his daughter would still get it if he did. And interestingly enough, you know, I don't know anything about life insurances to the plans to this degree, but he said they confirmed the particular one he had, that his daughter would still get paid, which concerned me because it just, you know, kind of opened another door for him. You know, knowing that his child would be okay kind of made it even more okay, and that actually concerned me. So, you know, I've been calling him on a regular basis, and I think that's what I'm urging people to do. You know, reach out to folks that you know are kind of isolated, you know, especially if they're introverted, they're disconnected, they're by themselves. But hell, you can feel like that and have a bunch of people around you and not feel like you're connected to any of them. So, but all I'm saying is reach out and just really check on brothers, because that's the one thing, you know, I find we don't do. I mean, you know, black men, people do not, you know, check on you, see what you're doing, how you feeling, you know, especially in relation to others. You know, folks just kind of take it for granted that black men are okay. And like I said, last year there was a situation here where a friend of a friend had disappeared for 2 weeks, and he apparently just, you know, committed suicide in his apartment, and nobody found him for a couple of weeks. And I really, you know, want brothers to reach out to each other to kind of curb that. But any thoughts about this, brother BGS?
Yeah, it's you know, COVID-19 is basically exposing all the cracks that are already there. You know, there's so much pressure on especially men with the downturn of work and the automation and all the pressures that are put on you. And it takes something like this to kind of expose those cracks. So if you need to go outside, go outside. You need to take a walk, take a walk. You know, it's better to take a slight risk than trying to commit suicide. If you need to be around people, you know, go to where people are.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to take extraordinary measures.
Okay. Somebody's saying we have reverb.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it's coming from. If there is, it's the first I'm hearing of it. Let me know if there's anything I can do.
Well, if you don't need sound, just come back in and click off the sound box until you actually need it.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. So don't share the sound until you actually need it.
All right.
You see
Does
that helps.
sound any better? Because
And see if that helps.
Echo out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's where it's coming from. It's on their side. So if you need that, if there's something that you need sound for, then go back in and click
And open
sound,
it
and
up.
we'll work with it.
Okay.
All
All right. So next up, we're looking at student loan losses. This is Apple News, Apple.news, saying student loan losses seen costing U.S. more than 400 billion, according to the
Yeah,
Wall Street Journal.
yeah.
Projected toxic debt approaches subprime mortgage losses incurred by lenders during financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. government stands to lose more than 400 billion from the federal student loan program. An internal analysis shows approaching the size of losses incurred by banks during the subprime mortgage crisis.
Mm-hmm.
The Education Department, with the help of two private consultants, looked at 1.37 trillion
Mm-hmm.
in student loans held by the government at the start of the year. Their
Right.
conclusion: borrowers will pay back about 935 billion in principal and interest. That would leave taxpayers on the hook for 435 billion, according
Mm-hmm.
to documents.
Yeah. I mean, if people aren't working, you can't earn anything. Guess what? You can't do? Pay back your loans.
Mm-hmm.
So you're on the hook. Yeah, they just dumped 6 trillion into Wall Street. They can afford 400 billion. If they're throwing around money like that, that's not even a big deal anymore.
Well, and that's one of the things I've been hearing people saying, even during the election period, where they were talking
Mm-hmm.
about what Biden can do, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people were hoping that he would just kind of dismiss the debt. Any
Mm-hmm.
thoughts about that?
I wouldn't say dismiss it, but the thing is, at least work with people. It should be reduced, or at least the payments reduced to actually stretch them out, because at the end of the day, it's probably never going to get paid back anyway. So why don't you just stretch out the debt and get whatever you can out of it? So start working with the students and people that owe it, instead of coming after them, because if they can't pay it, they can't pay it. If you can't get the economy working to where these people that got educated can actually earn enough money to pay it back, it's useless. So either you write off the debt or you work with them.
Wow.
So you're gonna have eventually going to write it off anyway, because the federal budget is exploded anyway. You're down 27 trillion, and in fact, I do believe they were telling the Fed that the Treasury's not going to back up any more money to actually save the stock market. The stock market got saved. They dumped $6 trillion in stock market. That's like almost at 30,000. They dumped so much money into it. So you clearly have enough money to actually do it. 400 billion is nothing compared to what you dumped into between March and September.
Right. Right.
So saying that it's a real problem, yeah, it's a problem, but it's not insurmountable, because you've already proved that you could do it.
Right. Well, we'll see where this is going to go. Let me see. All right, here we go. This one actually, this one hit me
Mm-hmm.
earlier this week, because
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing, more homeless over the last 5 years than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
And lately here in Fresno, it's gotten under 40 degrees at night,
Mm-hmm.
30 degrees. And I'm seeing people sleeping in the driveway of, fast food restaurants, sleeping in bushes, in 30-degree weather. It's just been
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. But this particular article, traffic snarled as thousands line up for food boxes donated by Tyler Perry in
Uh-huh.
Atlanta, right? Thousands of people lined up waiting for food boxes and gift cards donated by Tyler Perry Studios Sunday morning. Officials said they were out of food boxes before 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Or still giving out gift cards. The line of traffic for the drive-through event wound through the city for 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had people in there talking about, how much this meant to them. It's a true blessing. People waited for days, some people were there overnight. Some were waiting from the day before. Talking about, my family needs it. I have 4 little ones, so this came as a big help. But he had about 5,000 food boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's situations like this that really kind of demonstrate, where we are on this, and where people are, and how difficult a time people are having right now. So this kind of tripped me out. Did you hear about this?
I heard about this, and this is just Tyler Perry and black people. They're not even talking about what's going on in mid-America, because there's lines like this in Texas, there's lines like this in West Virginia, there's lines like this in Oklahoma. So you see a trail of cars and them handing out food boxes. In fact, they were saying that in Texas, there's so many cars. Is it the gas that it costs to actually distribute these food boxes probably could have been used to actually pay for more food boxes, because so this is an issue. This is a real issue. People aren't working, um, and if food stamps have been cut back. So this is the only alternative. This is the modern day bread lines. It's really all it is. We're in a depression. They're just not admitting that we're in a depression. And this is the first sign of it. It's modern day, because before you had to line up in person and weather the cold, standing in line. Now you're in a car because of COVID, because they don't want keep people social distance. But this has been going on for months. Now it's getting to the point where it's noticeable.
And as Ian said in the comment section, you got people in luxury cars out there camped waiting for food boxes. You know, and I said this a few months ago when I had Dennis Sperling on the show. We were talking about how brothers have been calling me from Long Beach to Florida, talking about the people who were delivering groceries. Were delivering, were especially black women in Mercedes Benzes. You know what I mean? So the time period we're looking at is ridiculous, especially when you're waiting on celebrities, to kind of help offset, or at least do what is generally expected from government. So it tells you how dire some of this is in terms of that. So, but it just caught me kind of looking at that, We got AtlantaBlackStar.com. Philadelphia City Council formally apologizes for move bombing 35 years earlier. Everybody remembers that image of Osage Avenue burning, right? So they said the City Council apologized for the 1985 move bombing in a resolution passed on Thursday, November 12th. Every member of the council, except Councilmember Brian O'Neill, approved the apology, reported to Philadelphia Inquirer. On May 13, 1985, the Philadelphia Police Department dropped an explosive device on the roof of a residential building. The blast killed 11 members of MOVE, a black liberation group founded by John Africa, who promoted a back-to-nature lifestyle. 5 of the people killed were children. The resolution was sponsored by Councilmember Jamie Gauthier, I may have mispronounced that, who represents the district where the bombing occurred. Yeah, I don't know what exactly goes on alongside that apology, but there it is, right? Whatever that's worth.
Yeah, it's the thing is, it destroyed like half a neighborhood. It wasn't just MOVE that they destroyed. They burned down half a neighborhood. I think it was 6 blocks they burned down because of the MOVE bombing and the fires that incurred. Right. And this is the first time they actually apologized for it, not only to MOVE, but also to the families that got burned out of their homes.
Right. Let me see this next one. Let's see if I think this one I'm gonna have to need some sound on, but
okay, go ahead.
See if I can actually treat it as any kind of fair use. So if there's some sound issues, I apologize beforehand. But this was a clip that was sent to me as well. I believe it is a clip from A&E. So hopefully they will let me play a portion of it, or this clip anyway. This is a woman confessing to murder. So check this out.
Do you know a guy by the name of James
Stevens?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Were y'all dating, kind of like a boyfriend, girlfriend type deal?
Yeah.
And he's a amputee, right? He's missing a leg?
Yes.
Did you know that he was staying in the back of the garage?
No.
You never knew he was in the back of the garage?
No.
Okay. So
I didn't know that.
So you never been over there to, you know what happened to James?
No, what happened to him?
When's the last time you talked to James?
I talked to him about a week ago before I killed him. Why?
What? If you talked to him before you killed him?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, that's why I want to talk. What I want to talk to you about. What happened with James?
It's just it. I did it.
When you walked into the garage and
Don't empty the whole thing. Empty the whole clip.
okay, well that night, I understand that you and James got into an argument.
Okay, I'm not. I'm not gonna play the whole thing, and trust me, I really want to, because that wasn't. She killed more than just James, but yes, as it's being reported in the chat, this came from First 48, and one of the reasons that it was posted and sent to me was just the way in which, the death of a black man in that instance was kind of addressed. Obviously, this woman has serious issues, so this is not to suggest that this is, everybody, but the coldness therein, the way his life was treated, I think, alongside the piece I showed earlier about the man who was catfished in Houston. I just really want to stress to black men, be very careful, best you can anyway, with who you deal with. Did you see this one? Did you have a chance to see this?
I did see that one.
I'm telling you, the ice cold level was high, boy.
Yeah, she had an excuse. I was just mad.
Yeah.
I was mad he was home.
Oh shit. I was mad he was home. Ooh, goodness. Brothers, be careful, please. I mean, I know, I've never been with this whole notion that you're supposed to figure out all the red flags and know what they mean the moment you meet somebody. I think we tend to get a little overboard with that sometimes, but I'm not here to blame victims in the situation. I'm just here to stress as things are getting crazy, like we reported a moment ago, as far as the food boxes, the economy, things are getting crazy. The environment is really pushing a level of desperation we haven't seen in quite a while. I'm just really stressing to y'all, be careful who you deal with, be careful who you engage with, because it's getting nuts out there. But
breaking your car windows is not enough anymore.
Oh my God, man. Oh my goodness.
You gotta run over you twice.
My goodness. This article here I thought was really good, and I want you to get a chance to check it out. This was on brookings.edu. The challenges facing black men and the case for action. And with it, there were a couple of charts for my data heads out there that may be useful. I don't care if you're doing research for a project, or if this is just something that may come in handy in a dialogue, or just for your own knowledge as far as where we are right now. Let me see. Okay, here we go. All right. Are we getting any echo right now?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, go out and come back in and hit the uncheck the box.
Okay, there we go. So this one here, you can see the two charts up. The one on the left, black men make up the largest share of prisoners. One on the right, black men are more likely to die of COVID when comparing white and black men and women. Right. So just some interesting data from Brookings on this. This is from July 2020 and the 2019 census as far as the COVID report, and the National Prisoner Statistics 2018, the American Community Survey in 2018 as well. So like I said, for the brothers that kind of listen to the Onyx Report, this is not anything new. Chief Rocker, appreciate that support. It's not necessarily anything new, but again, it's just useful data. So you can check out the Brookings article.
Yeah. The COVID thing makes sense, because we talked about this at the in March and in April. Why black men were actually dying at a higher rate is because who's the biggest homeless population? Who's the most vulnerable? Who has the worst health outcomes? So it's natural that black men would be the most vulnerable and actually die at a higher rate.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, Fortunately for data heads, unfortunately for the condition of black men, the charts continue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna share about four more. So here's two. The one on the left: young black men are poorly served by schools. Percentage of 25 to 29-year-olds with select levels of education attainment or higher in
Mm-hmm.
2019. And the one on the right: black boys raised poor are at most risk of remaining stuck in poverty.
You, you,
Um,
you know what the chart on the right, and which is something I'm probably gonna try to do a video on, is
mm,
if you notice that um, when it comes to being poor and making out of the bottom quintile, right?
mhm,
It's interesting to me that black white women and black men have a very similar outcome. Poor white women and poor black men have almost identical outcomes
mhm,
compared to white men and black women. Black women, poor black women actually fare better. They might not be get to the highest quintile, but the thing is, they can get out of poverty a lot quicker than black men can.
mhm,
It's just baffling to me why white women are actually uh, almost, if you look at that chart, it's almost identical.
mhm,
I think there's a little bit more blue in the white woman's in the black man's chart versus white woman, but it's identical as far as white poor white women getting out of poverty and poor black men getting out of poverty, which is I find shocking. When I first
mm,
started charting, I said that because you know logically it doesn't make any sense. You would think it'd be the other way around. It'd be white women that could get out of poverty more easily.
mm, mhm. And I find I'm kind of intrigued by the one on the left when you look at the educational attainment,
Mm-hmm.
associates, bachelors, and masters levels. You
Mm-hmm.
see black men at the bottom end, black men comprising the darkest blue bar.
Mm-hmm.
You see them kind of playing, and this is consistent with other things that I've reported in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, as you know, when you're collecting data, getting the latest tends to be very useful in general. So just trying to, put some information out there, especially if anybody missed the Brookings article. I want to kind of urge you to go check it out. This is the last two. On the
Mm-hmm.
left, you have black men are twice as likely to be unemployed
Mm-hmm.
as white men. Black men being the purple line in terms of unemployment rates. And then on the right, you have black men are less likely to participate in the labor force, black men being the blue line.
Mm-hmm.
So some of this data, again, not necessarily breaking from what we know, but nonetheless affirming and providing data. So again, if this is something you keep up with for whatever reason, be it work or for your own purpose, check out the Brookings article. The last one in that has to do with life expectancy, and you can kind of see there where black men find themselves. And this is up a few years because it was 65 years old a few years ago, so it's a
Mm-hmm.
little over 70 now. Black men being the at birth here, um, and then at age 65. So you can kind of see where things are, and like I said, it ends up being kind of useful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So
so
all around the
my
world, the
mic is
same
low.
song.
Okay,
That sounds better.
is that a little better?
Yeah.
All right. So, now, moving on, some of you who follow me on Facebook know that I did a little. I was watching the documentary that came out on BET. This is Nas's documentary, "Smoke, Marijuana, and Black America." Very interesting documentary. If you get a chance to check it out, um, I think you should. Very powerful. But one of the things I noticed in it is they definitely interviewed a lot of public officials. And one of the kind of interesting things that you can lose sight of over time is who gets to play that role of public official. And more often than not, and I think it goes with the education chart that I showed a moment ago from,
Mm-hmm.
associates to master's level. It was more often than not when they were black women. And if you watch the documentary, you see it repetitively happening, and it kind of highlights the moment we're in right now, where you can see the impact of, education and how that it impacts black men's positioning in
Right.
many ways. And these kind of white white collar positions, but also electoral positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it plays out in a very interesting way in regard to that. So this is really just a shout out to Nas. I appreciated the documentary, and I thought the information was interesting. It was timely. It was definitely useful, especially at this moment. Because one of the things he drove home on a consistent basis was that there's all kinds of money to be made
Mm-hmm.
in marijuana, and of course, as people are making it, many black men are still incarcerated, some of whom are on death row
Mm-hmm.
for selling small amounts of marijuana decades ago. You have men that have been locked up for decades, and at the end of the day, it's now a multi-million-dollar legal venture in many different areas, and so there's still not a kind of retroactive, widespread forgiveness program, let alone anything that directly ties black men into the industry and gives them priority status. Any thoughts about that? Because I'm starting to smell something that we might need to put on the black male political agenda, particularly in regards to this new and developing marijuana industry.
Incarceration. A lot of these. Do you think that the crime bill actually targeted just people with crack? It targeted
Mm-hmm.
everybody that was selling drugs or
Mm-hmm.
selling drugs, sometimes even possessing drugs
Mm-hmm.
over a certain amount. And since they're starting to uh, decriminalize these products because of one, because of COVID, and two, because of the opioids. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you're not wholesale sending white men to jail or send to prison for abusing opioids, even though they're
Right.
dangerous, or even selling it, even though they're
Right.
dangerous.
Right.
Okay, so why is there no push to actually retroactively decriminalize these people who already been put in prison for small amounts of marijuana or even large amounts of marijuana?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just a banker that was actually part of the cocaine trade. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he had a life sentence, so he was just pardoned from a life sentence
Mm-hmm.
because of his age. But the thing is, he was actually let out. He was a banker doing billions of dollars of transactions, really doing a whole lot of damage. Why are you keeping these men in jail for something that's legal now or
Right.
decriminalized now? It doesn't make sense. It should go on the agenda. That should be one of the top, one of the top things on the agenda
Mm.
is getting actually undoing the damage that this war on drugs and the crack era and then the crime bill era, we have still have 700,000 of nonviolent criminals in prison for what? For drugs. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, I know America is very vindictive, but when are we actually going to come to our rational senses and start letting some of these people out?
Right.
It makes no sense.
None at all. Um, there are two very short clips that I wanted to play that came from the documentary
Hmm.
that speak to some of the status of where we are on some of these things. Now I want to apologize up in the beginning because I recorded these just on my phone, and I know Kendra was saying in the comments, she said you don't have to play the sound, and with the videos that I play, some of them I don't. I'm gonna show you a few videos in a moment where I'm not gonna play the sound, but these next two I do need to play the sound for them so you can hear them. And I want to apologize for the quality because it's coming straight from my phone, but you should be able to hear it and see it close enough because I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. So as I watched it, now here's the thing: I'm gonna show you a couple of commercials, and they're gonna speak to the point of our discussion tonight in regard to the treatment of black men in the public eye. But these next two clips coming from the Smoke documentary just speak to where we are on a couple of things. So let me, I'm going to turn the sound back on. There we go. I swear, man, every week is something new. This,
Hmm.
this, 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 this content creator thing is no joke. Anyway, all right. So this is a clip number one from Smoke.
I have prosecuted marijuana cases in my career. I was an assistant state's attorney for 12 years. The majority of that time is in juvenile. I was a supervisor in juvenile. And
Hmm.
Unexpected stuff coming at you.
At the time that I was doing it, again, my mandate was.
And it completely. I swear, man, every week.
Now she's a black female prosecutor prosecuting juveniles for marijuana
Right.
because that's her mandate, and that's an excuse. I was just following orders.
Oh yeah. Well, hold on. So we're back. Let me try it again. This one's only a minute long, so let's see if it'll let me.
I have prosecuted marijuana cases in my career. I was an assistant state's attorney for 12 years. The majority of that time is in juvenile. I was a supervisor in juvenile. And at the time that I was doing it, again, my mandate was, enforce the law. Most of the people that I prosecuted were young black teenagers, mostly boys. And, I have an older brother who's 13 months older than me, who smoked marijuana in high school and was fortunate to not have been arrested for it. I felt like a hypocrite. I felt like I was put into this role as an assistant state's attorney to bring safety and fairness to our communities. And in the exercise of doing prosecution of these low-level marijuana offenses, I felt like I was doing harm.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm hearing my mic is low again, and this time I got it pumped all the way up. Is it still low? I swear.
Do you have volume control?
I got it all. I'm on the mixer. It's all the way up.
I'm talking about on StreamYard.
Hold on. None of the boxes are checked. So
next to your avatar.
I don't see it. What do you mean, volume control?
No, on your avatar in the tray. It should be 3 dots.
Yeah.
And it should have a volume control.
It doesn't.
It doesn't? Okay.
So I apologize if my mic is low. It is cranked all the way up on the mixer. So that's my boy Keep It 100. He's telling me it's too low. I apologize if that's the case. I swear this is a daily
battle.
Yeah.
Can you turn up the gain on your mic?
I can try. All right, but in the meantime, while I do that, any thoughts about what you heard?
You know what? You hear this over and over again. I was put in a position. It's my job, and you're a black woman, and just like your brother, you send in the little. She actually admitted, I'm sending little black boys and black boy teenagers to jail and prison, giving them records for low-level amounts of marijuana because I was told to, and I felt like I was doing harm. And you knew you were doing harm. It's not that you felt like it; you knew what you were doing. But to keep your position and keep your career, you could have gone. You were a lawyer. You could have gone into anything else, but you wanted to be a state prosecutor, and you did it. And now you're saying that you felt like a hypocrite. You didn't feel like a hypocrite when you sent all these young men to prison and to jail for what a low-level bust because somebody told you to.
Right.
And we're supposed to accept that because it sounds like the Nazis when coming out of the Jewish internment, right? And what did they say? I was just following orders.
Yeah.
And there was no excuse for that, but there's an excuse for this, and we're supposed to still elect these people to office afterwards.
Well, and that's the big issue too, because we've been saying for generations, if we can just get black folk in key positions, and I'm not saying that there's nothing that comes from that at all, but I'm saying that this raises the difficulty with that. When you get people in position, and it doesn't change, then what? And that becomes one of the challenges. Joe, appreciate that support. Says Black Uru says, and now she's Cook County attorney. White supremacist mission accomplished. Interesting.
Yeah.
This next one. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, what Joe Average is saying was the lady low level seeking revenge against black men due to questionable SMV, asking for a friend. No, this is the brainwashing. He said, and I've seen very good looking women do the exact same thing, say the exact same thing. They're sacrificing you for power. She knew she was doing harm. I can't believe that somebody that smart that went to law school and went to college can't see what you're doing time after time after time and know that it doesn't make sense. Especially when I had a brother that smoked marijuana. That could have been her brother that got arrested and actually sent to to prison for the same thing. It doesn't make sense. So to say that you didn't know, and I'm not buying it. Maybe Dr. Johnson has a bigger heart than I do.
Catch me on depends on the day.
I'm talking about Dr. Johnson. I'm not talking about Hasan now.
Oh, you cold. Okay, this is the second one. This is the second clip, and this will definitely give you some context on where we are today. Same documentary. This is Nas's documentary, Smoke. Check it out. Oh, okay, my bad. Next one.
2008, I came off of Barack Obama's National Finance Committee. And I was also the campaign manager for Congressman Jared Polis.
Now, she's good looking.
I'm telling you, man, there's something going on. I don't know what's going on. But this has actually never happened. Actually,
wake up, Neo. The gynocracy has you.
They have me. Is that what it is?
2008, I came off of Barack Obama's National Finance Committee, and I was also the campaign manager for Congressman Jared Polis, who is now Governor Jared Polis here in Colorado. Colorado was going to be the very first state to legalize. And from that, we wanted to be able to put a black face on the cannabis industry, because what we knew was that prior to 2008, 800,000 people a year were arrested for simple possession. And of that 800,000, 85% were black and brown people between the ages of 17 and 24, mostly boys. For us, that had impacted our life because my brother was one of those 800,000 people that was arrested for cannabis possession. His sentence was 10 years. An 18-year-old kid, a black kid, was given a 10-year sentence for $160 worth of street cannabis. Of that 10 years, 4 years was spent in a maximum security prison picking cotton. 100 pounds of cotton every day for 4 years is what my black brother had to do in Texas. That, to me, is slave labor. And when I found out that a member of my family was a slave for 10 years, we had to make a difference. And so Scott and I at that time decided that it was time for us to put a face on this, to talk about this politically, economically, and most importantly, from a social justice standpoint. The absurdity.
All right. Any thoughts about that? Let's see. BGS, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just making sure I didn't lose you too.
Okay. Yeah. People think the crime bill and all that kind of stuff was only about crack and drug dealers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the maximum, the mandatory minimums went after the drug dealers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The crime bill actually went after drug users.
Right.
So people think that the people committing crimes or selling drugs were the only people who got impacted. No, the crime bill went after the drug users. You can't. There wasn't 700,000 people selling drugs in the black community. They went after users. Intentionally went after users. Intentionally went after black male users. Just like in in Texas with the marijuana.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
10 years for basically what we used to call a dime bag, marijuana. 4 fingers of marijuana gets you 10 years and hard labor. Doesn't make sense.
You sound very knowledgeable about that, brother. You sound like you know a few things about that.
I know a few things. Yeah, I learned what 4 fingers of weed look like at 11 years old. So yeah.
Well, a few moments after that particular clip, she talks about how the police arrested her husband and her brother, both of whom are over 40, for gang activity, and used that as a justification to raid their store.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see her husband standing behind her in the back. So that's what that was. But again, I applaud Nas for doing it. There's a lot of information, a lot of useful information. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's called Smoke.
Yeah. Would you notice they had a lot of white artists and a lot of white users in the same clip, but they didn't get criminalized for it.
Right.
Never went to jail for
Right.
it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the fact that it's legal now and in many instances and black men are incarcerated. And this is the thing, and I was talking about this last year, because I'm going through my health issues, managing pain. I started really going into different cannabis stores
Mm-hmm.
in different cities. I'm driving up and down California just to see what they have. And more often than not, I'm seeing these early 30s, well actually mid 20s to early 40s shop owners who are white, right? So, and they're owning these businesses and they're selling t-shirts and backpacks with cannabis symbols on them. And then of course, all the products that go with it. And I'm saying, here you got this 28 to 35 year old young white dude owning a cannabis store and selling like crazy. And I'm thinking about how many black men have been locked up for this very thing in the same city over the last few decades.
Yeah, Colorado is up to I think like 2 or 3 years ago was still arresting a lot of black men for small amounts of cannabis.
Yeah. Well, let me see. Shop Talk, you can find Smoke on BET. Where else you can find it, I couldn't say, but y'all are real savvy, so I know you know where to find it.
Yeah, I looked. It might be up there now. I looked in those corners, and it wasn't there when I looked. But if I do find it,
I ain't saying nothing. I don't. I was, support the brother Nas if you can. But it's an interesting documentary, and all I was really trying to point out though was that one of the things you notice in it when they go to the public officials to get the scoop on what was going on in different cities, you see overwhelmingly black women in those positions, and this to me goes back to education, but again, it also goes back to decades of strategically allowing for certain opportunities for some demographics versus others, and the fallout of that. The fallout of that is highly problematic in terms of what positions black men find themselves in and what positions they often don't. And that brings us to the central focus of today's show. Are the fathers of slain sons treated the same as the mothers of slain sons? Now, really, I'll show you the image this whole discussion came from. But before I do, and this leads up to this, there were a number of commercials that went along with the documentary Smoke. And again, it was on BET, and you could see them. Now, I'm not going to play the sound very purposefully, but I just want you to kind of notice. You can't hear that, can you?
no.
Good. All right. So you can just look at the imagery, and you can
BLM.
kind of tell. Yeah, you can kind of tell who they're marketing to, right? That's Vaseline. BJS and I were talking about this before we went on today. The various commercials, the programming ideas that we're seeing over and over again, right? Metro by Mobile. Who are they marketing to? Who are they identifying? And who's absent, right? Who is entirely absent from the discussion? Right.
Unpartnered black woman.
Unpartnered,
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Single, strong, independent, unpartnered black woman.
Absolutely. And it continues. And it's not only with commercials, it's also television shows, right?
Yeah.
Women of color, And so I'm watching these commercials in the midst of watching this documentary where I'm seeing, the absence of black males in these positions. And it's so repetitive.
Student of colors in STEM, all black women. Well, black men are not considered of color, not straight black men.
And it's the consistency of it that can be mind blowing too, right? The consistency of it. And this is BET, right? But it's not like it's limited to BET by any means. Target commercials, you see the same kind of thing still happening. Where, in each of these commercials, Very rarely do you see black males. They may be in the background here or there,
Hmm.
you know. Now you said you saw something a little different in the commercials you've been watching. What
I've
was it
been
you were pointing
watching
out?
a lot of commercials and ads and even TV shows and even trailers for movies where black men were seen as partners for white women,
Mm-hmm.
not husbands for white women, but partners in
Mm-hmm.
a supportive role.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have the
Right.
superior white woman, and then you have her black male partner that could be her husband or a boyfriend. And I've been seeing a lot of that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and the question is, what is the programming that we're getting?
Hmm.
And the most, so I think there are some overarching trends, right? But the ones that I'm seeing most basically ignore black men. And that's one of the things that I'm finding interesting. So when this question of um, what do you call it? Black. What it started with was this. I'm gonna put this up. This was an image I saw on Facebook, right?
Hmm.
And it was talking about the mother of Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis was the teenager who was shot in Jacksonville because he was playing his music too loud, right? And so they were saying, I don't know why that copy sign is happening in the middle of it. I apologize. But that his mother, Lucy McBath, just won Georgia's 6th congressional seat after thousands of absentee ballots were
Hmm.
counted. And they said she flipped another red seat blue. And see, the thing about it, when I posted it, I'm not, I'm not disparaging her at all. I'm not
Hmm.
interested in disparaging any of them. What I noticed just upon that is it dawned on me while I was reading this. I was like, I've seen a number of these mothers acknowledged in different ways. Even just if we talk about just the last 5 years, even it's
Hmm.
like, okay, I've seen a few of them. Mainstream, news media, whether it's running for political office or starting organizations or
Hmm.
speaking out about various things. And I was like, okay, that's cool. How many fathers have I seen?
Hmm.
And I drew a blank.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Philando Castile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now he had two parents when he was killed. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
you see the mother talking and the father sitting right next to her.
Mm.
They never asked the father about Philando Castile.
Mm. See, and that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Hmm.
I'm just noticing it. It was just an observation. And the interesting thing was how frustrated some people got with me making the observation. Making the observation became synonymous with hating black women and
Hmm.
trying to bring them down. And I'm like, nah, this isn't about that. I said I'm not even really talking about any one black woman. What I'm
Hmm.
talking about is a phenomenon that I think is going on where black men are not able to translate the kind of these traumatic experiences into any kind of political currency.
Hmm.
And they're not because in that it you're talking about parents who are only known to the public because of this tragedy, and some people are able to turn that into, man, I keep getting my voice is low, but it's turned, I don't know what else to do. It's turned all the way up. I apologize. I don't know what is going on with my sound today. But anyway, I'm up on this mic as loud as I can be, people. So um, I think is that any better? Okay, Adam says it's good. I don't know. But thanks, Adam. Let me know in the comments if it's okay. All right. So anyway, I just had this observation where I'm noticing the absence of black fathers' voices, and when I think about the absence of their voices, it went hand in hand with the
Hmm.
absence of opportunities. It seems to me to
Hmm.
be in positions where they can affect change and translate what has occurred into some type of political currency. And one of the pushbacks I got from people online was, well, the reason that that's happening for black women and not black men is black women are more outspoken and they try harder. I was like, is that it? Is that the only difference? Okay. And it brought me to this, and I think you remember this. I think this was 2016. Remember
Hmm.
that?
Yeah.
Mothers of the movement, right? Mothers of the movement, right? This was something that we saw at the Democrat National Convention, right? Where they pulled together the mothers of slain sons. Those sons were killed by police officers. And I noticed the absolute absence of fathers. And so one person I was debating with about this online, who, was accusing me of, just trying to denigrate black women, we're going back and forth. And I said, well, she said, well, you have to prove to me that this is happening. I said, well, yeah, that's difficult to do because, I'm just making this observation. But I said, I'm just curious. How many black fathers can you remember who lost their sons? And she could only point to one, right? But she didn't name him. She pointed him out as Trayvon Martin's father.
Yeah.
And I said, that's interesting. So you're telling me that I'm wrong and this isn't happening, but you can't think of more than one father in the last 5 years, even though 200 to 300 black men are killed by cops every year. And we see the mothers, right? We see them quite regularly, and they are translating their sons' deaths into political positions. And yet we can't even remember many of the fathers. And I thought that was interesting in and of itself. So I said, you know what? Let me ask if BGS will join me today and talk to me a little bit about what he sees with this.
Even if you think about Breonna Taylor, right? Who was killed in that shootout, even with her boyfriend there on the phone with 911 with her bleeding out. Okay, you hear more from her mother than you did from him, who's her significant other and was right there. And had suffered the same loss because he actually was there watching his significant other bleed out on the floor. But you hear more about but you rarely know his name versus the mother's name.
Yeah. And how do we talk about that when even bringing it up is treated like a national offense? And this to me takes us back to Dr. Ronald Neal's notion of black male independence and black male agency. When just bringing up certain subjects is considered taboo, it's considered a justification for dismissing you.
Because even with Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, he was blamed for not protecting her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Even though he took up arms and it still wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. Yeah.
So so in this regard, it's not just fathers in and of themselves, whether or not we know who they are, but are they able to turn this into anything? Have you heard of too many fathers, or how many fathers have you heard of that have been able to take a situation like this and be heard? One of the ones we've thought about, we've heard about, at least in terms of the public, who I would say is the closest thing on par to Trayvon, to Trayvon's father, I think it was. Let me see. Is hold on, I had to put these in a different order here. Is Michael Brown's father, right? So you might be able to see, you have to look for them, right? Some of these brothers up here, but this is Michael Brown's father. And I found this in an article where he was talking about looking into a new investigation for what happened to his son. This was a few years ago, but still, I just found it interesting how little I've heard from the fathers. And part of the argument is, well, black fathers don't care. Black fathers don't try to be heard. They're just not as outspoken. Okay. That's it. So you hear people invoking, and these are black folk in particular, invoking the same stereotypes about black men, but this time directing them at black fathers because they are either incapable of caring for their sons who've been killed, or unwilling, or too lazy, or inept to be outspoken about it. That's what I'm really detecting with this low level, low simmering boil of misandry
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the assumptions made about black fathers. And on the reverse end, this notion that what we see happening with black mothers is just really a result of black girl magic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Have you seen any of that in terms of that?
You see it all the time. In fact, I think that one of your parts of your closing statement is incapable father.
Mm.
And that is the trope
Yeah.
that's been for black men since slavery. You cannot
Yeah.
take care of your offspring, cannot take care of your women, and this is perpetuated. So the indomitable, strong black mother that fights against all odds to protect her offspring and sometimes even her men. That's what gets presented because if anything happens to a black man, he's actually killed. The first person they look for is his black mother, and go to her house and point a camera and a mic in her face. She don't have to do anything. She don't have to call. You have to do anything. They will point the mic in her face. Even the brother that got killed in Washington D.C. When she when the young lady put 5 bullets in him, she was standing over his body talking to her mother about what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think Black Uru Strikes offers something in the comment section I want to point out. Stepping back a second into the Breonna Taylor conversation, he said the problem with the boyfriend was that he was supposed to die protecting her.
Yes.
And they will never forgive him for being alive while she died. That is a profound point about the expectations on black men and what protection often means in the imagination. Right. And the reason I talk about the imagination is the same reason I showed a series of the commercials I showed, because the imagination about what people expect from black men has been shaped and tailored by popular media and by decades of policy. Right. Decades of policy in terms of options that women have often gotten that men don't. And so men have to make up the difference using their own grit. And that can be extremely difficult when you're grappling with institutions. So here, what you have in media is the expectation being set that really, in its core, black men are supposed to be able to function like white men. And then when you get to the real life impact of decades of policy, seeing the distance between the reality of where many black men are versus what's seen on television and film and magazines and so on and so forth. So add that with the recent trend in media, like the commercials I'm showing, where you have black women kind of being pedestalized. And what you end up with is an interesting, soup, as it were, a dish where at the end of all of this mixture of ideas, black men find themselves in a position where no matter what they do, there's critique. And I think what Black Uru Strike said is powerful in that regard, because the only thing he could do is die.
Yes.
To be honored as a man, right? And so when I look at these fathers, them not being heard plays out as part of this too, right? The other father that some of us are familiar with, right, is Trayvon's father, right? And he set up a foundation. Actually, Michael Brown's father set up a foundation as well. And one of the things that I remember Darren Seals even talking about was how a lot of the resources that were supposed to go to his father's grassroots nonprofit organization got absorbed by other groups, BLM included.
Yes.
And so, again, another mark. And when I say failure, I don't by any means suggest that these individual men failed. I'm saying in terms of what they were not allowed, what support they were not given. They were, and I think this is something Tone and Yvette over at ADOS say often. We were forced to eat the failure. You know what I mean? Where these opportunities were not lended to them. And I think too, when you talk about politics, we treat politics like an individual sport. Like we have this idea that you wake up one morning and you say, you know what, I'm going to run for position, and you get up and you go run. And I'm not saying that hasn't happened, but I am also saying when you're talking about a population that for the most part has only in the last, half century been able to even engage in political activism or political participation, I mean, it took damn near a century after being given the right to vote on paper before we could. By the time we start to, especially if you're poor, much of it depends on being invited. Much of it depends on being welcomed into the space. So if when the Democrat Party actually says, "Look, we're willing to support you in this venture,"
Right.
right? There's a welcoming atmosphere. It's very different. But if you're poor, you don't have extensive college degrees, you don't have
Mm-hmm.
a political track record, and you're not considered a mother of the movement,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You don't have the
What happens?
qualifications. Yeah, you don't have the qualifications for it.
Yeah.
You don't have well, how can we say the person, not the person, but the things you need that should be put out front and be taken seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one of the concerns I have. And then to the other level of it
Mm-hmm.
is there's a certain empathy extended to I think mothers in general, the whole
Yes.
idea of
Yeah.
mothers. So as soon as these young men died, there's an empathy we're willing to extend, to mothers. People don't know what to do with black fathers, and I would argue that happens even within the black community.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Right.
you get shamed for it. Yeah, okay, of course. In other words, if your son dies in any account and you're not there to protect him, they say, "What happened to you?" They feel for the
Mm,
mother. They feel for the
mm,
mother because she
mm,
had a loss. She's supposed to grieve, but you get blamed because you weren't there to have to stop him from what he was doing or there to protect him from the world, and you get blamed.
mm-hmm,
I'm sure like Trayvon Martin's father got blamed. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, he
mm-hmm,
wasn't sympathetic. Okay, and in this neighborhood, how could you let him go out in the evening and get Skittles? How come you weren't there to protect him? Uh, how come you didn't? What kind of neighborhood did you move it into? How could you let this particular man shoot him? How come you don't go avenge his death?
mm. Listen to this. This is in the comment section from Judy Smith Randall. She says, I can tell unequivocally that black fathers' names and images are stricken from newspaper articles. I used to work at a newspaper years ago."
Mm,
Interesting.
mm,
Interesting. See, and these are not things that people don't know. See, I'm not
yes.
really saying anything shocking. I think most people who saw the title of this, particularly the listeners that frequent, our YouTube channels, it's not that I said anything you don't know. It's merely a matter of, observing how we not really are and how we're not able to talk about it. That we're not able to really acknowledge it and actually, put that on a public platform to be analyzed. Right? It's not part of the national conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We,
It's
we
not, but the only time you really see a black father being dug up if the mother has actually done something to hurt or kill or to the child, right? Put the
Mhm,
child in a vulnerable position. Then you go back. They want to excuse the mother because she was under stress and she had all this stuff going for her. Then they actually go out and look for the father.
mhm.
And where were you? How
Right, and
come you
that's the
didn't? How come you let
subtext.
this go on? And then you see the father's name. Then they
Yes,
will actually. The father could be had not seen the kid in 5 years. He would go all the way across country, find that father, and ask him, "Did you know this was going on? How come you weren't there to protect your child?"
right, right, and that's one of the things. See, which again comes back to this whole issue of, fathers are disinterested, disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
But each of the men that I've shown, including this gentleman here, grandfather of 11-year-old shot in DC, says defunding police is not the answer. And the article in and of itself is really more about his thoughts about defunding the police. But that's
Right.
not why I'm posting him here. I'm posting him here because here you have an outspoken grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
right, who's dealing with not only the loss of his 11-year-old grandson killed by a stray bullet, but he's also outspoken. And my statement is, you don't, you may, if you're lucky, you may see these men in one article here or there, very randomly, but there's no transference of that into anything substantive about black men. And the stage, the microphone is often not given to these fathers, and I think there's a fear of what they might say as well. But that was the concern I had when I thought about this. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I can think of numerous mother figures. And I think part of the reason for that, most especially, had to do with that DNC convention. But the blatant absence and disregard for black men entirely is what blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
And how we were so used to it, I don't remember anybody really being saying anything about it.
Because we're used to it. That is your leadership class.
Wow.
That's your leadership class, and they're doing it right in front of your face. That's your leadership class. That happens in church. That happens in school. That happens in public events. That happens on TV. Happens in newspapers.
Yeah.
But nobody will say that this is what it is.
Right.
This is very common. Basically, even goes down to business, school, whatever it is. Basically, to get anywhere, if a black man wants to network, he needs to go through a black woman for anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let me see here. Now, as y'all know, the holiday is tomorrow. It's going to be strange with COVID. I'm not sure what families are doing. As for me, I still have a few things I need to do tonight. So we will be kind of ending soon, and we're not gonna have an office hours tonight for my members. So we will do that. We will be back on track next week. But as for now, I'm gonna close out with this, just this thought that at the end of the day, that we as black men need to be able to support one another. And God forbid, if you're one of the fathers that has had to endure something like this, if nobody else is willing to support or listen, it damn sure needs to be us.
Mm-hmm.
It damn sure needs to be us. Because when I ask the average person how many fathers they can think about in this situation in the last 5 years, usually we can only name one or two. And that's, roughly speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see any kind of public acknowledgement like this, what you're seeing on the screen in terms of the mothers of the movement. And I think that in and of itself really kind of makes unavailable the reality of black men as fathers feeling pain. And I'm saying this as a father, right? I've held my son coming out of the womb. You know what I mean? I know what it means to be a father, and I've watched him grow. And the thought of losing him on a random day, by just it's just the thought of it hurts my heart. But the idea that nobody would even care, that nobody would even consider father's pain, that's goes right alongside this in terms of that. I mean, that's just speaking for me.
Yeah.
I don't know where you find where you find
Black
yourself
men are
on
not
that.
supposed to have feelings.
Right.
Well, black men are not don't have a gender, they don't have feelings, and they're objects.
Right.
They're
Right.
treated as objects.
Protect and if you're supposed to provide provisioning, protection, but that's kind of it.
That's it.
Extend your time, your resources, try and support these brothers. And I'm sad to say, based on the statistics, this tends to continue. If anything, as I reported last week, it looks like the numbers are up a bit this year, right? Considering all that's gone on. So at least look out for and support many of these black men best you can, and support one another, particularly through the holiday season, as y'all know what tends to happen. So moving from there, let me just say, again, that we aren't going to have any office hours. But beyond that, I'm going to go to my closing. And again, you guys have seen these are available on the shirts on the Institute for Black Male Studies website. But as I say, I'm here to tell you, brothers, we are not criminals by birth, perennial rapists, incapable intellects, man children, sperm donors, child support wellsprings, success objects, walking phalluses, ATM machines, lottery tickets, brainless henchmen, valueless assassins, pro bono mercenaries, unpaid bodyguards, interchangeable stepfathers, child discipline proxies, unpaid repairmen, workhorses, emotional tampons, or any other socially accepted dehumanizing stereotype. We're thinkers, inventors, innovators, leaders, fathers, warriors, and men. Embrace your humanity, know your worth, and extend your time, attention, and resources only to those who genuinely respect you. And remember, your worth is not defined by meeting other people's narcissistic, selfish, and unrealistic needs. You define your worth. And I want to thank BGS for coming out today. Much appreciated. I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you next week. Peace out.